If we was to fight right now on the streets, I'll break your fucking neck. And that's on my kids. And you know it, I know it, and the whole world know it. And I'm not talking about no fighting in the ring. If me and you was to fight outside, I will break your neck.
Sean does have a point. If Porter either beats up on Bud or makes him look bad, people are going to say, well, he was never good. He never fought no quality opponents. That's what they are going to say. I tell you what, these are two superbly conditioned welterweights, and it's going to be a classic. A lot of people think it's going to be a one-sided fight in Bud's favor. No, it's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a classic. I don't know what triggered Bud, but the gloves are off. You see, they have a friendship. Somebody needs to play this to Joseph Parker. Bud has been friends with Porter way longer than Joseph has been friends with Tyson Fury. But Bud's talking about, if we used to fight in the street, I'd break your neck. I'd break your neck. The gloves are off. And like I said, more often than not, after the final bell, the boxers normally reconcile their differences, say, yo, good fight, hug, and a lot of that animosity is gone for now. Now here are the top 10 heavyweights of, let's say, 1964, 1965. Sonny Liston, the champion, Ali beaten twice. Doug Jones, Ali beat him in his eliminator to fight Sonny Liston. Ernie Terrell, Ali was stripped of the WBA belt after he beat Liston because they had some jacked up law that you couldn't give immediate rematches to deposed champions. Terrell picked up the belts and Ali unified his WBC strap against Ernie Terrell's WBA strap. Cleveland Williams, Ali defeated him. Zora Foley, Ali defeated him in his last fight before the government took his license away. Eddie Machin, that's the only guy out of this list Ali didn't fight. Floyd Patterson, Ali defeated him twice throughout his career. Carl Mildenberger, Ali defeated him in Germany. George Chuvalo, Ali beat him twice in Canada, Chuvalo's country. Henry Cooper, Ali defeated him twice in the UK. You see, like I was trying to tell you, right? Let's not do no revised history. When we look at the Sonny Liston victory for Ali, and we know how feared and intimidating Liston was and how dangerous he was in the ring, we're assuming that Ali got immediate credit for beating such a beast of a heavyweight. My favorite heavyweight, Sonny Liston. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. They said the fight was fixed. It was a gambling scam. We still don't believe Ali is genuine. He's a fake, he's a fraud. Ali had to clear out his weight class. Clear out his weight class. Added to that, Ali wiped out this whole top 10, minus Eddie Machin, between 1963 and 1967. They haven't got the year of this ranking. I believe it's 1964, the year where Ali beat Sonny for the first time in February. Because they're still referring to him as Cassius Clay. And he changed his name to Muhammad Ali before the second Liston fight. He'd done this all before they took his license away in 1967. And when he came back in 1970, he fought Jerry Quarry, #1 contender, in October of 1970. In December 1970, he beat #2 ranked contender, Oscar Bonavena. 3 months later, he fought Joe Frazier for the undisputed heavyweight title. He lost and didn't regain the title until 1974, where he beat George Foreman. You know, so in the first reign, like, Ali cleared up all them names. In the second reign, he was taking on the likes of Foreman, Norton 3 times, 1 2 out of 3, 1 2 out of 3 against Frazier, Ernie Shavers, Ron Lyle, Jimmy Young, Joe Bugner.
I am the greatest.
Boxing is the swill barrel of sports. It's a dirty racket in many instances, and that's the way it's going to be, as long as a hoodlum figures he can make a buck by muscling into it. It's not going to change either, as long as managers and promoters refuse to cooperate fully with the district attorney and the boxing commissioner and are faithful to the code of the underworld, which says a man who talks truthfully to a public official is a stool pigeon. But if the managers and the promoters would cooperate with the district attorney's office and the boxing commissioner, I'm certain Hogan would be able to clean it up immediately.
I think you're right, Jimmy.
The big prizes of the prize ring are poverty, insanity, deformity, and sometimes death.
Why is Andy Lee saying that Tyson Fury is going to fight Dillian Whyte? Why isn't Tyson Fury coming out and saying it? You see, even if Andy Lee is Fury's cousin, Fury can backtrack on that at any time and say, I'm not fighting Dillian. And he is unstable. So the 30 days are up. Tuesday, we're going to get the WBC mandating Dillian to fight for that belt. Whether Tyson Fury is in the opposing corner or not, that's what they said, and that's what they need to stick to. This guy's talking about he's going to fight Joe Joyce. Joe Joyce isn't ranked for the belt. Vacate the belt and go fight Joe Joyce. You see, he's had a significant fight, and the history tells us after a significant fight follows, oh, I'm not going to oblige Vladimir Klitschko the rematch I was supposed to give him. I'll come back and fight somebody noteworthy 3 years later, gets a draw against Wilder, and then takes over a year to give Wilder his rematch. In all truth, he didn't have to give Wilder the second fight because he didn't win, it was a draw. Wilder had a rematch clause in there, but Fury didn't win. Wilder still had his belt. And let's not forget the WBC, we can't trust him. Dillian is not out of the woods yet. They mandated Tyson Fury over Dillian to fight Wilder over a year after he took the first fight with Wilder. Tries to welch out of the third fight with Wilder, which he signed to. And he didn't need to commit to this third fight with Wilder because he was the mandatory challenger. But for whatever reason, they signed it. He beats Wilder in the third fight after the arbitration. And then Bob Arum is telling Anthony Joshua that he should step aside so Fury can fight for undisputed before he does. Give up your rematch clause. So they're not only saying, AJ, yeah, let Fury go for undisputed, they're also asking Dillian to give up your mandatory position so we can go for undisputed. Only a mug of epic proportions would let Fury get that kind of leverage over them with his history of taking long breaks in between relevant fights. And all of a sudden they want to be talking about undisputed. Go fight Dillian. Even with the arbitration, I heard a lot of people who don't like Deontay Wilder. I'm not a fan either. Everyone knows I'm not a fan. I used to be, but I'm not a fan. I said, yo, you can't blame this on Deontay Wilder. If he has a legal position to get the third fight with Fury, you can't blame this on Wilder. You got to blame this on Fury. You know, when you think about it objectively, why would Al Heyman allow two different promotional outfits, all these different television networks, to air an undisputed heavyweight title fight, which they're not involved in Saudi Arabia? No, they were right. They were right. They were right. I want to just put some context on a few issues. Usyk has won my full respect, not for winning in the ring. Anyone can win in the ring. AJ's won in the ring. Usyk wins in the ring. But committing verbally, if I beat AJ, I will fight Fury. I will fight Dillian. I'll fight Wilder. Whoever survives out of them guys, I will fight them to become undisputed. I applaud him because Tyson Fury isn't doing that. He's talking about retirement. But let's not get it twisted, you know. I think there's a temptation for some people to make it out like, yeah, Usyk will just take on all comers. He's not interested in the business. Let's not go there. Yeah? Let's not go there. You might hear about communism in that part of the world, but they're all about their paper. We could talk about Eddie Hearn rematch clauses. Let's start with that, you know. Okay, Bob Arum's talking about he wants Fury to fight for undisputed, but he signed a rematch clause for the second Wilder fight when he was mandated over Dillian. He didn't need to sign it. He's got a history of doing that. He signed a rematch clause with Klitschko when he was mandatory. Like I say, it's admirable what Usyk said. He made a commitment to the boxing fans. Gets nothing but my respect for that. But what's the truth? He didn't need to sign a rematch clause. He was a mandatory for that WBO strap. The thing is though, if AJ and Hearn said, well, no rematch clause, no fight, they'd fight for the vacant belt for a fraction of what they would get for fighting AJ. They happily signed that rematch clause with Joshua. They happily signed it because them purses that you can earn against the likes of Joshua are not guaranteed. Anything could happen to Usyk. Fight for the vacant belt, somebody lands a great shot, as good as he is. He's not immune to the one-hitter quitters that change things in that division. Anything can happen. The underdog takes Usyk out. You could get injured in sparring, can never fight again. You got to take them purses once they're there. Everybody's signing shit, so it's going to delay undisputed. Don't lay this all on Eddie Hearn's door. So Claressa Shields will make her debut in the UK December the 11th against undefeated WBC #1 contender Emma Kozine, if that's how you pronounce it. If I butchered your name, Emma, forgive me. Now, Savannah Marshall, she fights on that same bill. If both of them come through unscathed with the W's, but we'll see the big showdown. Now, Claressa and Salita Promotions have finalized a multi-fight 7-figure deal with Sky Sports and Boxer XX. Now, I cover women's boxing on the channel. I don't ignore it. There's some channels that don't deal with it at all. I'm talking about male channels, and they're entitled to do so. It's not an issue. But I guess as a dude, you don't really realize what it means to a lot of people, like women who box, women who cover the sport, who are dedicated to it, like Rosie Perez, for instance. On Twitter, she said, Claressa Shields' 7-figure deal is big. Would be great if athletes in the rest of the world got behind women's boxing the same way they get behind women's soccer. They put their lives on the line each time they step into the ring, just like male fighters do. Equal pay at mark after media. Now, I assume most of you know who Rosie Perez is.
Bring around the Rosie with Perez, so tell a nigga now what.
So I replied and said, you can't force it down people's throats, they will just dislike it even more. She came back and said, with the utmost respect, I respectfully disagree. Many said the same thing about women's soccer, and look what happened, it became a worldwide movement for the league. Positive thoughts, positive actions, positive results, have a great day. And, you know, I had one woman who kind of accused me of being patriarchal. Read your response, can't force it down people's throats, they would just dislike it even more. Seriously, this is the basis of Title IX. I don't know what that is, that's something in America, I don't know what that is. The reason women needed the federal government to level the playing field, because we are told to wait our turn, know our place, not impose ourselves. Now, I explained to her that I watch women's boxing, I cover it, I'm not a hater of women's boxing. Now, there was more comments on there, some people saying that we don't want to see women's boxing, we don't want to see women hitting each other, and it got a little heated. Like, me and the woman, we managed to squash our little discourse, and that was that. And you see, these things can get a little touchy, these subjects, they can get a little touchy, and sometimes as a man, you can forget what certain things mean to a woman, because you're not seeing the discrimination where they often may see it. But you know, you can't really compare women's boxing to women's soccer. They've got a lot of sponsors behind them, and they have their own league. Make that plural, leagues all around the world. They have their own World Cup. While women couldn't survive, not in the UK, doing their own cards. Katie Taylor often has to fight on a DILLIAN White, Anthony Joshua, and now she's sharing billing with Conor Benn. Conor Benn hasn't even fought for a world title yet. Katie Taylor is an Olympic gold medalist and an undisputed lightweight champion, but she's still got to share the bill with Conor Benn. So unless women or somebody does a UFC with women's boxing and they get their own league and their own sponsors, they're always going to be trailing behind the Anthony Joshuas, the Canelos, the Tyson Furies, the Wilders. Well, PBC don't put on no women's boxing at all, but that's the truth. They couldn't survive without the top earners in men's boxing. It couldn't survive. And even when you look at women's football, let's just deal with the UK right now, right? They don't make their own individual clubs. No, you've got Tottenham's women's team, you've got Arsenal's women's team. They don't make their own clubs. Their teams are basically the women's version of the men's teams. Same kit. If you basically have to clone everything that the men's team does, you're never going to be bigger than them. If you have to piggyback off the top earners in men's boxing, you're never going to get equal pay or be bigger than them, whether you're taking risks going in there or not. Amir Khan and Kell Brook have become somewhat bizarre figures in UK boxing. Kell Brook said that they both signed contracts to fight, and now Khan is saying the deal is yet to be finalised. Contracts are still going back and forth. So I'm not sure how he, Kell, has signed when we're both waiting. Hopefully something gets finalised this week. How about neither of you go to social media until you've negotiated the fight, the purses, the location and everything? How about you do that? But I guess it fits in with modern day boxing. It's just got that soap opera car crash value to it now. So what, it's going to escalate into a who signed the contract and who didn't war? Is that where it's going next? Khan is 34, Brook's 35. If you're going to fight, at least have a professional approach to getting the fight done. At least do that, and then when it's signed up, talk all the shit and the madness you want when there's an actual fight in play. I can't wait for the build-up, to be honest. Now, I'm not going to say that a lot of boxing fans outside of the UK are thinking this, but I have a feeling a lot of British boxing fans, especially if they've got the zone, are kind of wishing that Eddie got this fight for the app. But I'm guessing the kind of money they're looking for, Eddie wasn't going for it. There's no way Eddie could put that as pay-per-view on the zone. There's just no way. He'd have to cover the purses with just the subscription money, and he just didn't fancy it. But I made a couple of polls, one on Twitter with 100 votes, asking should Eddie have delivered Brook and Khan for the zone, and 65% said no. However, on YouTube, with 597 votes, the same question had a slightly different outcome. 45% said yes, 55% said no. You know, on the Twitter poll, there was some interesting points of view. I think Daniel got it spot on. If Eddie did put it on the zone, everybody would clown him. But if Sky Boxer Double X pick it up, he's got egg on his face, according to some. And that pretty much sums it up. Eddie brushed it off the other day and said, the fight's just not big enough. It's just not big enough. I don't care what any of you British boxing fans, if you're anything approaching what a quote-unquote hardcore is, and you've been watching this sport for years, when you see Sky doing the build-up for this, and then they go back in the day about fights they've both had on Sky, and there's these reflective moments, because basically Khan and Brook are two boxers that we've seen develop from when they were kids. I've been watching Brook since he fought, what's the kid's name, Jennings, and Lomax. The Lomax fight was on a Khan undercard, box office, against Kotelnik. I know, because I shelled out for it. Frank was promoting both of them back then. I've been watching Khan from the Mario Kinlan fights in the Olympics to when he signed with Frank Warren and turned pro on ITV. We've grew up with Amir Khan and Kell Brook. You can't just switch them off like that, despite what you want to say. If you've been watching Amir Khan since 2005 on ITV, right through to Sky, then Golden Boy, PBC, and watching Kell Brook from whenever on Sky, you're going to be drawn in a little, 100%. That's if they can get the damn fight negotiated. Stay off social media until it's negotiated. Two grown, middle-aged fighters now. Come on.
Canelo plant numbers came in from the US overnight, roughly 800k buys. What do you make of it?
I don't know the truth of that. I mean, I saw IDEC reported it. I don't know who told him that, but I would have said somewhere between 600 and a million. So I don't know the truth behind those numbers, but Canelo's a huge draw. So I think anything that shows good numbers, we've seen the numbers that he does on DAZN, and it is quite amazing. He's just a superstar, massive draw, and you know, it was a big fight.
Eddie seems to be questioning the Keith IDEC sources, questioning the 800,000 number like it's not a reliable source. But he wants to tell everybody how the numbers were great on DAZN. Kind of sounds like he wanted it to flop on the PBC. Maybe so he can lure Canelo back to DAZN and say, yo, you're better off here. Pay-per-view the thing of the past. So, for the first time since the Golovkin rematch in 2018, Canelo comes off the DAZN app and is back on the pay-per-view format of the PBC. 800,000 is what it's allegedly done against Caleb Plant, and that's just domestically in America. Now, a lot of people can't compartmentalize a lot of stuff. They're fans of fighters. I'm not going to call no one a fanboy because I'm a fan of certain fighters. Everybody knows that. But what did I tell you about Anthony Joshua's pay-per-view against Usyk? We haven't heard any numbers. Because more than likely it didn't do that well. Maybe it was a reaction to the undisputed fight going down the tube. It may not have done that well. You know, Fury and Wilder 3, that done 300,000. Possible reaction to the undisputed fight not happening. And the arbitration blowing it all up. They have history, and that's all they could do. Caleb Plant is not a known fighter. Canelo carried all of this and done similar numbers to what Fury and Wilder did with a big promotion. They paid a whole lot on whatever Super Bowl advertising they splashed out to get that 850 or that 800. Where did the momentum go for the third fight? Where did it go? They didn't deliver the undisputed fight. That hurt the top three biggest names, heavyweights, Fury, Wilder and Joshua. That's what it looks like to me. And who knows, these numbers could be fudged. They could be. There's no official direct source where we can get trustworthy numbers on pay-per-view. There just isn't. But let's say he done 800, 700,000, 750. What does this mean? I mean, it's a huge number because Caleb Plant is not a big draw. So this is all about Canelo. This is the Canelo show. It tells us he's still a big draw. Not the 1.2 or 3 he did the last time he did pay-per-view against Golovkin in the rematch, but this is a big number. Off the top, it tells us that if he does go back to DAZN, we won't be seeing him fight as part of our subscription again. We managed to get Canelo 3 times in the last 11 months as part of our subscription. Pacquiao was only able to do 250,000 against Ugas. Of course, he would have did way more if Spence didn't collect the eye injury. I don't think he's going to go up and fight Beterbiev. As much as I won't mind seeing it, I don't think he's going to do that. Golovkin, the winner of Golovkin Murata, perhaps David Benavidez or Charlo are the likely options. You know, like, I don't care who says anything. I don't care what anybody's got to say. I don't want him to fight Benavidez and Charlo. I don't want him to fight them. I want him to earn that shot. I want the PBC to make Charlo versus Benavidez and really build one of them to get in a super fight. That's what I want to see. I'm sick of hearing that them two would give him the stiffest challenge and they're not taking no meaningful fights to build themselves into attractions or to test their skill sets. I'm sick of hearing it, to be honest with you. And he's got some good fights in America. Teofimo Lopez makes his first defense against Kambosos. Devin Haney versus Jojo Diaz. These are good fights. But the app just hasn't had the marquee event in America. It just hasn't had it on DAZN. I don't know what the future of the app is in America. I really don't. In the UK, if this BT takeover is all above board, then that's huge. That's huge. It's huge. The truth is though, they can't get big attractions as part of the subscription. It has to be pay-per-view. Eddie said that. That's not going to work in America. A lot of people don't want to see domestic British boxing cards. Now for me, I'll keep paying to see that. But a lot of people are like, nah, can do without it really. Especially the time zone differences as well. it's not a good deal for a lot of people across there. Canelo can't fight as part of the subscription. The app right now is dead in America. It's dead. They're not going to pay pay-per-view on the app either. They're pay pay-per-view on the PBC, on Fox, on Showtime, on ESPN, Top Rank cards. They're not going to pay for it on the app because that's not how they traditionally do it over there. If they're going to pay pay-per-view, they're going to just go to their remote and order the fight. They're not going to go through the procedure of the app to order pay-per-views, not unless the pricing is very competitive. Does Triple G still have the marquee value it had in 2019 when him and Canelo did 1.1 or 1.3 depending on what source you're quoting? That's assuming he beats the Japanese guy. What about Charlo and Benavidez? I mean, there's not going to be no undisputed fight on the line. What fan base do they bring to a fight with Canelo that Caleb Plant couldn't? I don't know. Canelo's not going to take a pay cut. Now he's undisputed. You see, this is why I didn't rush to edit this too quickly. Rick Glazer, PBC hater, just like Coppinger is a PBC capper. I don't know where Michael Benson sits in it all. He says, from my TV industry source, whoever that is, Rick, eh? Your TV industry source. On all platforms in the US, Canelo Plant did a little under 750,000 buys. That's very impressive. It's being reported as breaking 800,000, a figure that was floated to the media by PBC Showtime. That's close, only a difference of about 6%. Regardless of what quotes you get, what figures are toted around, Canelo is the face of boxing. He's the face of boxing. He said in the Boxing Scene article that he's not going to make a decision on who he's fighting until January. My father like son. They've got that exhibitionist gene. EUBANK went in to Germany. Hostile atmosphere, I remember it. And it was a close fight. Well, at least according to the scorecards. And he took on Graziano Rocchigiani, who was 35-0 at the time. And he came out with that W. He kind of thrives on that. He went to Ireland to fight Steve Collins. That didn't really work out. And his son, throughout his career, he's shown that same cockiness, hasn't he? Remember, he goaded the Nick Blackwell fans, Tyson Fury, Billy, Joe Saunders, and the rest of them who were baying for Nick Blackwell to do damage. Remember the Avni Yildirim fight? Just like his dad went to Germany, like Yildirim was 16-0, and Yildirim's manager was acting like a crazy person, like he was gonna cut heads off and stuff like that, threatening to fight one of EUBANK's entourage, trying to be real intimidating. EUBANK just stayed composed all through, and possibly one of his career best performances, you could say. Not saying Yildirim is all that, but EUBANK was the first to do a number on him. And he's going into the Lions Den again against Liam Williams. The fight takes place in Cardiff, Wales, and Liam Williams is a Welsh lad. So the bulk of the support is going to be for Liam Williams. This will tell you something about EUBANK's intentions in this fight here. He's showing Liam Williams, I have no respect for you. I'm going to go in your backyard, in front of your fans, and teach you a lesson. Now, for my money, this is an excellent domestic matchup. Ideally, I don't think Dominic Ingle would really want to push Liam Williams straight into a fight with EUBANK coming off a loss. But they've got to get back in the title race. This is a great opportunity. He had a moment where he rocked Andrade. He was washed and he was hurt a few times. He was down in round 2. But his hatred for EUBANK is so intense that maybe against him and his coach Dominic Ingle, he used to be coached by Gary Lockett, didn't he? He also coached Nick Blackwell. Maybe against their better judgment, it's saying, yeah, let's just go straight into this fight here. They want to teach EUBANK a lesson they feel is too cocky. Liam Williams, 18 inside the distance in 23 fights, 3 losses, 1 loss inside the distance. That was to Liam Smith, I believe, where he retired in 9 rounds with that injury to his right eye. He was winning the fight until Liam Smith started using the head illegally. In the rematch, Smith done a lot better and won a decision. And then there's the loss to Andrade. If my memory serves me right, Liam Williams used to box more when he was at 154. And he seemed like he transitioned into this aggressive power puncher when he moved up to 160. Correct me if I'm wrong. In the rematch, Liam Smith done a lot better and won the decision. And then there's the loss to Andrade. He's beat the likes of Atlantis Fox. That was a good win. Guys like Andrew Robinson, domestic level, and no more than that, were blasted out in the round. With Joe Melenda, knockout is crazy, but once again, another domestic level opponent. He can hit, but at what level? What level puncher is he? EUBANK has 23 knockouts in 31 fights, 2 losses. Since the James DeGale victory early 2019, he's been campaigning at 160. A lot of people are making a big deal about Zach Parker stopping Marcus Morrison where he took EUBANK the distance. Well, Morrison moved up 7 pounds or so more than when he fought EUBANK. Zach looks like he's worked on his body punching a little, and he was very effective against Marcus Morrison and was crushed by Zach Parker, who's fought a super middle all his career and as high as 177. Zach Parker wants a fight with EUBANK, and it would be interesting, no doubt about that. But we can talk about that if it looks like a possibility. Right now we're dealing with Liam Williams versus Chris EUBANK Jr. Now, a lot of people think Williams is going to steamroller Chris EUBANK Jr. when EUBANK is not at his best against boxers. He got going too late against Billy Joe Saunders, who piled up the points behind his southpaw jab, and George Groves also used a jab in outpointing Chris. Now, George Groves, for my money, hits harder than Liam Williams. Not that EUBANK wants to stand there and get hit with Liam Williams' best. Now, it's a tough fight, but if Liam Williams thinks he can just wait to land one shot, that shot may never come. And then again, it may. You never know. But if he stands in front of EUBANK, EUBANK will light him up. Let's make no mistake, it will just come down to how much punishment that Liam can take. Like I said, 2 former world champions have beat EUBANK, and they boxed. If Liam Williams looks for one big shot, while EUBANK's is teeing off with combinations with his left hooks and his right uppercuts, it's not going to be a good look for him. I don't care how tough he is. It's not going to be a good look for him. Williams needs to get off. Williams' hand speed needs to be on point. He has to beat EUBANK to the punch and throwing combinations. And then he'll have to transfer his offense into defense. And he's going to need defense. Because EUBANK, well, here's the thing with EUBANK now. The unanswered questions since he's been training with Roy Jones. Is he that same volume puncher now? Is he all about reflexes and trying to catch you with single power shots from crazy angles? Is this who he is now? Is Roy Jones taking Chris in the right direction? Or is this the type of fight where we need to see the old Chris EUBANK unloading combinations? It's hard to say. What is this new EUBANK under Roy Jones' tuition? We're going to see. This is the fight we're going to see. We've seen 2 fights so far, one against Marcus Morrison, the one against the other guy whose name looks like wank if you don't read it properly. And now this is the step up. Chris is also a very good body puncher, as Liam Williams is. Williams has to be aggressive, but he can't be as reckless as I think he might be. He can't be, or he's going to get hurt. Not by single shots, but by accumulation. He can win the fight, on points perhaps, because EUBANK hasn't shown no fragility around the chin as far as I know. But if EUBANK wins, he's more than likely going to stop Liam Williams late. Liam Williams is 29 years of age, EUBANK is 32. EUBANK at this stage of his career can't afford to lose to Liam Williams, or it's a long road back for him to become a champion, isn't it? It really is. I mean, he's talking about fighting the likes of Golovkin and Canelo, so he needs to be winning here, surely. And it's the same with Liam Williams. If he can't win here, because EUBANK, he did win a regular or interim WBA belt and an IBO belt, but he really needs to make an official stamp on claiming being a world champion, in my opinion. And it's the same with Liam Williams. You know, he's already lost to Andrade and Liam Smith a couple of times. Another loss here, another loss for either man. Do either of them really improve from here? I'm not sure. Crossroads fight. Only a 5,000 capacity arena. They've sold out. EUBANK said it's personal. He genuinely doesn't like Liam Williams. that Williams has been goading Eubank for months. Eubank said he said a lot of disrespectful things about me over the last few months, and he has vowed to settle his bitter feud with Liam Williams on December the 11th, live on Sky Sports. Eubank said it was hard to stay calm after scathing social media comments from Liam Williams, but he has vowed to punish his British rival in a personal fight. So, you know, Eubank normally has that cool exterior, but Williams really got under his skin, didn't he? He's really got under his skin. Eubank insists he's used to fighting in hostile territory where he gets booed into arenas. He's done that many a time, just like his dad did. So, if anything, it makes him fight harder, and that's what he's saying here. He'll fight harder if the crowd's against him. He said he hopes to receive a warm welcome, but either way, he's going in there to get the job done. From Williams' perspective, he says Eubank has a misguided sense of superiority and plans to inflict a humbling defeat on him. He believes he's going to knock Eubank out. He said he can't walk down the street without people saying to him, when is he going to fight Eubank? He said Eubank is arrogant, he wants to punch him in his face. Williams said, I think he's a good fighter, I respect him as a fighter, I just don't like his personality. Who's the tougher? They're both tough boys. Who's the tougher? I've got a feeling that it's just going to come down to that. Like, who's tougher, who's landing the most, who can keep more water out of the hole in their roof. That's a metaphor I'll use there. Very good fight. Claressa Shields is on the undercard. I believe Savannah Marshall should be on this card as well. I can't see her name here on BoxRec. Frank Warren is going to be looking for a result because this isn't on BT, it's not Queensbury. Just like Eubank is crossing over to Wales on hostile territory, Frank's fighter is crossing over to Sky for this big opportunity. Who you got winning? Let me know in the comment section. Peace.